Yoga Plus. Download now for free.
Hey, welcome. It's Julia. I am so glad that you're here. In today's class, we're going to kind of level up our yoga practice just a bit. So if you've been itching to say, what's next? What else can I do? This is going to be a great video for you. But don't worry, if you are still sort of at the beginning of your yoga journey, I'm going to give you tons of places where you can either level down or level up your practice, depending on what your body's feeling. So stick with it. I know that we're going to have a lot of fun today. If you do have a yoga block at home, I'm sitting on mine right now, it can be a great asset to your practice, but you can also use like a really thick book or a firm pillow. Mostly what we're using our block for today is just an opportunity to have a place to sort of land our head or have something to aim for. We also will be using it for some core exercises, so a firm pillow does the trick for those exercises. All right, so we're gonna get started on our back. As we journey into side crow today, maybe you are someone who's still working on regular crow, and that's totally fine, or you've never even thought about taking your feet off the ground. That's okay too. When we think about arm balances, really the journey there is super duper great for our core, our stability, our shoulders, our strength, and it's good for our mindset. So we just try something new regardless of the outcome. So I want to start on our back with just a little bit of core activation. So bring your feet about hips width distance. You might notice that when you immediately come to this position, just like me, you'll have the natural curve of your low back. And that's totally fine if you're just hanging out here. But for right now, I want you to feel some additional core activation to really brace and support the spine. So begin to tilt your tail and draw your hip points up towards the ceiling. From there, pull the belly button down into your spine, and it might feel like your low back is smoothing down into the yoga mat. For me, I have a lot of natural curve in my back. It's just how the bones are set. So I never get like really smooshed into the earth here, but I find a lot of solid connection in the low belly. So that's what you're looking for. Great. From there, pick up your heels. So you're making a little crow shape with your legs, but we're not gonna do anything with that just yet. Just pick up your heels, press your heels together, and keep your knees tracking about hips width distance. Good. Continue to draw the low belly in, and then maybe now with your knees lifted over your hips, you can feel that full, firm connection of low back into ground. From there, take your front ribs and pull them in. So it's gonna really feel like you're squeezing your belly in towards your spine. Now, grab your block. Put your block between your knees and hug in. So we're thinking about stability and core activation. The inner thighs are actually a part of that process. Keep your heels about in line with your knees. Some people call this a 90-degree angle, but you probably can't see it, so you can feel it instead. There's a connection between your heels, your knees, and your hips. Good. From there, I want you to either take your hands down to your side if that feels more stable, or you could take your hands up by your head, but we're not lifting our head off the ground just yet. Good. So you have all of this firmness in the belly, all of this energy in the inner thighs. On your next breath in, I want you to take your heels down to the earth, continue to draw your belly button to your spine. As you exhale, hug the block and lift your knees back over your hips. So we're not going for a ton of speed here. We're just trying to find that deep core connection so that we're building stability as we move on further in our practice. Good. Use your exhales as you draw the knees back over the hips, and stop the knees right over the hips. So you don't have to pull them in, and your butt will stay on the ground. Let's take 4 more. If your low back lifts off the ground a little bit, that's natural, but I want you to keep that brace, that hug around your spine. 2 more. Last one. These should be pretty simple. Great job, but you should feel a ton of activation in the core and then in the inner thighs. So set your block aside, and now bring the soles of your feet together. Let your knees open wide. That'll feel really good for the inner groin. Allow the low back to curve a little bit more into its natural shape. Take your arms up overhead. You'll stretch your armpits for just a moment. Good. Now guide your hands down to your knees. Draw your knees together. Lift them into your chest and take a simple twist to your right. It doesn't have to be a big twist. This is beginning of practice, so you're just getting a little bit of rotation in. Also, since we're working on side crow, which is just the twisted version of crow, we're starting to introduce the concept of twist to our body early on. Let's take that to the other side. So as you twist, you're looking for your hips to be stacked, but here they don't have to be rigid. So if your top hip comes a little bit back, that's fine. If your knees are a little bit out of place, that's fine, because we're not putting a ton of weight on the body just yet. Take another breath here. Good. And then come back to the center. From here, you'll just draw your knees into your chest. That'll feel really nice on the low back. And we'll come back up to a seated position. So from this little ball shape, grab behind your thighs and rock yourself up. Good. So just come to a natural seat. If you notice that your knees are a lot higher than your hips when you sit in Sukhasana or easy pose, grab that pillow or that block and put it underneath your sit bone. Good. I want you to find this sort of neutral pelvis, so you're not sinking backwards and you're not tilting forwards. Your hip points are in line, and you can sort of pull your nose over your navel. That's usually a good indicator of whether or not we're upright. Good. So now that you've found a nice neutral, we're going to purposefully tilt the pelvis just a little bit, because that's going to give you the sensation of rocking the pelvis from a core strength and stability place, rather than just letting your back either round or sway. Good. So take your hands to your knees. I want you to purposefully send your belly button forward and then pull your chest up. So there's no crunching in the low back, but rather you're just coming into natural spinal extension. Good. From there, I want you to turn your pubic bone up towards the belly button and then round back. So you're going to hollow out the belly and allow your back to round. So we're going into a little bit of flexion. And then we're going to rock between the two. Come forward, purposeful, intentional, and then bring it back and draw the belly button back. 2 more times. Rock it forward and then hug it in. Last time. Rock it forward and hug it in. Good. We're going to take one more round, but we will add on to it. So as you rock back, I want you to rock back enough that you can take your fingertips next to you and sort of lift your knees off the earth like you're coming into bow, but keep your ankles crossed, because that'll just give you a little bit of stability. So draw in and lift your feet and then rock it back down. Now here's the fun part. I want you to switch which foot is in forward. Scoop your heart forward, and then as you exhale, round it. Take your fingertips to the side and then lift your feet. So you're just starting to get that sensation. Maybe your fingertips get light and you can pull it off the earth, finding that sensation of lifting up from the hip flexors, low belly, abdominals. You're finding some stability and balance here. Good. Rock it back forward, and let's take it to tabletop. So as you come to tabletop, your shoulders will come over your wrists and your hips will come over your knees, and you'll make a really nice long spine here. Press down through your shins and the tops of your feet. What you'll notice when I do that, you might even see it in my back just immediately, as soon as you press down, the belly draws in. So from this tabletop position, press your shins down, and you might even notice in my back, as soon as I do that, I can't help myself but to draw the low belly in. So you're gonna feel that activation down and then draw in. Similarly, with your hands, slide the heels of your hands back and your heart forward. As soon as you slide the heels of your hands back, you're creating some stability by turning on your lats and creating a really nice stable shoulder, so your arms aren't way far forward and you're also not popping out your shoulder blades. You need that kind of stability in your shoulders, especially when you're doing arm balances. So finding a nice stable shoulder. Press down into your hands, pull back a little bit, and then widen your collarbones. Good. So from there, you should feel like you're working quite a bit just in this position without even going into your cat and cow. But we will go into that just to continue to make some fluidity in the spine. So from this sort of stable, rigid position, I want you to purposefully soften the elbows so we can start to move into movement. Tip the belly down and lift your heart forward for your cow pose. Good. As you exhale, send your tailbone down. We already worked on rounding the back, but now you can feel it even more as you press into your hands. Gaze back towards your inner thighs. And then take a breath with movement. Inhale, open up. And then exhale into your cat. One more time, lengthen forward into your cow. And exhale, round into cat.
Good. Keep the belly drawn into the spine, but from that position, pull yourself through.
So you find that you have to hug in to then lengthen out, and you have a ton of stability in the midsection. Now reach your right arm up as you breathe in, and we'll practice rotation. Exhale, thread the needle. Inhale, circle it up. Exhale, thread the needle. One more time. Inhale, circle up. This time, thread the needle and land all the way down, shoulder, cheek, and ear. Your opposite arm can go long. Keep your hips over your knees so you're not sinking way far back. And allow the rotation to happen in the rib cage. Just take one breath in and out. Great. Slide your left hand underneath your shoulder. Big inhale, push the ground away, and reach up with your opposing hand. Exhale, place your right hand down, and we'll take the other side. So push down and lift up with your left arm. Then as you exhale, take your left under your right, thread the needle. Inhale, push into your right hand, lift your left arm up. Exhale, thread the needle, twist. One more time. Find that action of push and reach, working with opposing actions. Exhale, thread the needle, come all the way through and land your ear. Extend the opposite arm forward so you're spiraling one set of ribs over the other. Really nice. Take a full breath in and out in this position. Good. Slide your right hand back underneath your shoulder. Use that to ground you. So your inhale, drag your left arm back up, and exhale, touch down. From here, we'll move into downward facing dog. So take a breath in and tuck your toes. As you exhale, downward facing dog, lift your hips up and back, press into your hands, allow your neck to go long in between your upper arms. If it feels good, you can pedal, bend one knee and then the other. Good. And then from here, shorten your down dog just a little bit, about half a footprint. This way your heels are a little bit closer to the ground and you feel really stable. Then take your feet outer hips width distance. Press down into your left hand and take your right hand either to the side of your yoga mat or all the way to your left ankle. From there, pull your left hip up as you drive your left heel down, and then rotate your ribs underneath so you're looking under your armpit. Little down dog twist. It's really common to sort of sink in the direction of the grounded hand, but I want you to pull your hips up and away. And then release on your exhale. We'll take the other side. So now your right hand is this really firm base. Push the ground away so you can rotate. Take opposite hand to ankle or the side of your mat. Lift your hips up and away from that tension and breathe. Also very common to want to do something different with your neck here, sort of like look forward to your hand. Let your head just hang. And then once you feel spacious, you can rotate your gaze. One more breath and release. Good. Walk your down dog back to its normal length. Step your feet together. Just swing your right leg up. And then as you exhale, bring your right foot between your hands. Root down through the finger pads of your left hand. On your inhale, reach your right arm up. And then as you exhale, touch your right fingertips down and step up to the top of your mat into a ragdoll pose. So heel toe your feet a little bit wide, drop your head, grab for opposing elbows. So one of the shapes that we find in crow and in side crow is a forward fold. So hip flexion. Anytime our belly is a little bit closer to our thighs, we're in hip flexion. So the more that we can get a little comfortable in this space, really find that activating our belly and drawing in intensifies that joint action, we'll feel more confident to repeat that in our pose. Take one more breath in. Good. As you exhale, touch your fingertips down.
On your inhale, soften your knees, come up to standing. You'll only be here for a moment. Big inhale, reach your arms up.
Then as you exhale, bring it all the way back down. Drop your head all the way.
Good. Slide your hands to your shins. Draw your belly in, and then from that tension,
Pull the heart away. That action of drawing in and then lengthening out gives us tons of stability in our core. Take one more breath right here. Nice, long, secure spine. And then as you exhale, plant your fingertips and lunge your right foot back this time. Right fingertips come to the ground, strong in the back leg. Inhale, circle left arm up. Good. Exhale, touch it down. Step back to your downward facing dog. Then rock forward like a wave, so you're pulling the belly in, the heart comes over the thumbs, and then you straighten out the upper back. Exhale all the way down to your belly. Good. Loop the shoulder heads back. On your inhale, lift to a little cobra. On your exhale, touch your chest back down. Tuck your toes, and then a push-up. Push straight up. Hips and shoulders come up at the same time, and then downward facing dog. Big breath in, wide open exhale. Let's move through that on the other side. Your left leg will lift high, then step it through. Your foot comes between your hands. It might take 2 steps to get there, but you'll get there. Strong in the back leg. On your inhale, left arm circles up. As you exhale, touch down. Step to the top of your mat. Fold. Halfway lift your chest. Inhale. Exhale, forward fold. Drop your head. Stand all the way up. Circle up. And exhale, take it all the way back down. Halfway lift your chest. Inhale. And then lunge your left foot back. Exhale. Reach your right arm up. Inhale. And then exhale. Take it back to down dog. Soften the knees so you can rock forward and then straighten your legs as you pull your upper back long. Exhale, lower all the way down to your belly. Little baby cobra, lift your chest. Exhale, take your chest back down. Tuck your toes, firm your legs. One straight line push up. And then downward facing dog. Big breath in. And a big breath out. So moving on, we'll take it to the top of the mat. On your inhale, look to your hands. As you exhale, step to the top of your mat. Forward fold over your thighs. Take a little bit of a bigger forward fold this time, so draw the belly in, allow your head to fully drop. Good. Then halfway lift from the engagement of your core. Pull the heart out and forward. And exhale, bring it back down. We'll start with our feet hips width distance for our first chair. Sink back and then lift the arms up. So you have to bend into the knees and send your weight back into your heels. Press down through the ball mounds of your feet and draw up through the low belly. So there should be a ton of stability from the belly button down so that you can have this sort of bright and buoyant heart, and your arms shouldn't feel too heavy above you. If they do, you can always bring your hands and arms out to cactus arms, and that just takes some pressure off the shoulders. Take one more breath here, sinking low as you do. Good. As you exhale, forward fold, come all the way down, back of your neck goes long. Inhale as a halfway lift. And then lunge your left foot back. Heel toe your foot a little bit wide and place your left heel down. From here, warrior one. Lift your arms up overhead and then sink into your lunge as much as you press back into your back leg. So you'll probably feel a lot of hip flexor opening here, especially after all of the forward hip flexion we've been doing. So you're getting a nice stretch for the left hip. Good. Since we took our feet wide, we can come easily into humble warrior. Take your hands behind your back. Loop the shoulder heads back so it's a nice chest opening before we get into our arm balance, and then forward fold. Bring your rib cage to the inside seam of your right thigh, and then steer your left sit bone back towards, or your right sit bone rather, to your left heel, so then you can drop your head. Hug your inner thigh towards your rib cage. That'll find a firmness and a stability that you'll need later in your arm balance. And you probably remember that sensation from when you put the block in between your thighs for our core work. On your inhale, scoop the heart back up, reach your arms up. Good. As you exhale, take your hands to your heart and then step up and release. Let's take the other side. This time, bring your feet to touch. Inhale, chair pose. Squeeze the inner thighs like crazy and sweep your arms up. Allow your tail to feel heavy and then zip in the low belly. You'll use that in your crow. Good. Take one more breath in here. And as you exhale, forward fold right on over your thighs. Halfway lift your chest. Pull the shoulder blades back as you move your heart forward. And then as you exhale, you'll take your right foot back and allow your feet to be in two separate lines so that you're more on railroad tracks instead of a tightrope. From there, press into the back leg and lift up. Sink down into your front heel and pull the waist long at the same time. So we talked a little bit about opposing action. You can feel that. As you're deepening down, pull the front ribs in and lift up. So we spoke about that a little bit more, working with opposing action. So as soon as you deepen into your lunge, also pull the front ribs in and lift your heart out so you'll feel really stable around your spine. And then take your hands behind your back. Put the non-dominant grip this time. So you open up your chest. It'll feel a little bit interesting because it's not your natural bind. And then bow forward and down into humble warrior. Hug your front inner thigh into your rib and then steer your sit bone back. Squeeze your shoulder blades onto the back body. And then gaze back at your, either down the tip of your nose or towards the foot behind you. Good. Stay strong in your legs as you come up to rise. Inhale. And then as you exhale, hands to your heart, step on up. And release your arms. Inhale to chair pose. Reach your arms up. Feet will come together this time once again. Take your hands to your heart and let's add the twist. Lift your right side body long so then you can rotate and wrap over your left thigh. The foundation of prayer twist is still the chair legs. So it doesn't make sense to twist if you're losing the bend in your knees. So keep your butt low, move your chest forward, and rotate. If your wrists are fatigued, you can always make a fist with the bottom hand. Good. On your inhale, come back up to standing, and then just step your left foot back, open into warrior two, so your front heel will bisect your back arch. Gaze down the line of your front arm. This should feel really nice hip opening for your hips. Draw your front knee back towards the pinky toe edge and then sink a little deeper. Flip your front palm and on your inhale, reverse your warrior, big stretch up. And as you exhale, cartwheel your hands down and reset to downward facing dog. Take a deep breath in and then a big breath out. We're almost ready for our side crow. Let's do the other side of our prayer twist. On your inhale, look forward. On your exhale, step to the top of your mat and fold. Halfway lift your chest, inhale. Forward fold, exhale. Sink low into your chair. Bend your knees, sit your booty down, reach your arms up. And then dock your hands at your heart. So this time we're making a little bit of space on the left side body. So lift it up just a bit and then rotate. Remember, chair legs, the foundation is the most important part. Bend your knees and sit back. Draw the belly in and lengthen the spine. That way you can rotate on exhale. Take one more breath in this really strong prayer twist. Good. Inhale to stand up. And as you exhale, you'll step your right foot back and open into your warrior two. As you move down into your lunge, pull your spine nice and long. Take your gaze over your front middle finger and let your shoulders soften away from your ears. Good. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior, reach up and out of your waist. And then as you exhale, cartwheel your hands down to the mat and step back to downward facing dog. Take a deep breath in. This time, open mouth exhale. Good, and then come on down to your knees. Great. So from this kneeling position, let's come to tabletop. Again, shoulders over your wrists, hips over your knees. Find that nice, stable shoulder. And then we're gonna come into a little supported side plank. Kick your left foot back, reach your top arm up, and then take it over your ears. So I just want you to feel really long. Good. And now take your top hand to your hip. You're gonna step that foot forward, so about halfway up your mat, so you can free up the bottom leg to go long. I use this version of supported side plank a lot because it allows me to feel my inner thighs a little bit more, and I get a lot of low belly action as well as stability in the shoulder. All of these things are necessary for side crow. So reach the top arm up and then over your ear, and then from there you're going to dip your hip low and swing the arm down. I use this move in a few of my videos a little bit faster, but for today I want you to be really controlled. Squeeze the inner thighs and return to the start position. Good, so you're gonna dip the hip low, stabilize and control with the belly. You're pushing down a lot with the hand, so I don't wanna see your shoulder up by your ear. Good, then squeeze the inner thigh and lift. Take it one more time down, and then squeeze, come up and over, and return to your tabletop. Move it side to side. If you have to let the wrist go, let the wrist go. Going slower with those is actually a lot harder than going fast because you're not working with momentum, but rather the strength of your own body. So if you need to stay in the supported side plank variation with your knee down, you can come into that as well. So side plank, step your foot back, take your top arm over your ear. Good. So this is where you can stay or take that foot halfway up your mat, press down into your hand, and the bottom leg can come out. Now, top arm's gonna go over your ear, lift your hips up. And then as you exhale, bring the hips down. You're really firm in the shoulder, but you're stable and balanced in the belly. Good. Inhale, lift it up. Squeeze your inner thighs on the way up. Exhale, lower it down with control. One more time, lift it up. Lower it down with control. Remember, your shoulder is nowhere near your ear. Nice, stable shoulder. Inhale up, and then over, and return to your tabletop. So if you need to roll out that wrist, do so. Bring a little comfort back into your body. Now, let's set up for some side crow. This is where a block can be handy, especially if you're first starting. So I'm going to give you lots of different ways to start. So crow, which you might be familiar with from my other videos, is when you bring your knees outside of your arms, lean forward, and begin to lift your toes off the ground. Side crow is when both knees are on one side of the body. So we're just adding the element of twist. So the block can be a great place to sort of balance with a kickstand for your shoulder. And then I'm going to offer you 2 additional ways to get into this posture. If your toes never come off the ground, it's fine. It's all about trying something new. And not every pose is going to be easy for every body. It's not about easy. So just do what you can, and that is the most important thing. All right, so we're going to start in this little toe squat position. If you have sensitive knees, you might find that starting in the prayer twist is a little bit easier because you're shifting your weight back. But I like to start in toe squat, especially for people who maybe are a little scared of heights because the ground doesn't feel so far. From there, take your rotation. You're gonna bring your elbow over your thigh. If at this point one of the knees pops forward, that's normal. Don't yank it right back, that'll hurt your back. Instead, let the hip do its natural shift as long as you can still feel inner thigh engagement. That's the most important thing. When we try to tug our body out of its natural tendencies, that's where we start putting torque on our joints that doesn't feel so good. So as long as you can control it, you're in good shape. Then we're going to start with our fingertips facing in the opposite direction of our toes. So if you're in a twist, your toes are pointing that way. In this first variation, your fingertips are pointing in another direction. So you're taking like a 90-degree turn. Good. Now lift your butt, and you're gonna snuggle that back elbow under your butt. From there, rock forward and then maybe nothing happens. Maybe your toes don't come off the ground. And you're just playing with that. Perhaps your block becomes a kickstand for your shoulder. Once you feel that stability, start to squeeze the inner thighs and the heels together so you can lift your feet off the ground. Playing with that little teeter-totter effect is a great way to get confident being on your hands. So one more time, I'm going to show you this variation with the block, but from the other side so you can see the rotation and also get a better feel for the hand placement. So from this little toe squat position, you're still buoyant because my inner thighs are engaged. I could lift my butt off my heels if I wanted to with no pressure on my knees. Take your twist. You're gonna bring your elbow outside of your thigh, and then that back elbow goes to your butt. And this is the part where people typically get tripped up because they're like, I don't wanna get any higher. What if my nose hits the ground? But you have to get your butt over your elbow if you're gonna go anywhere. So lift your butt up, bend your elbow. So it's a little lift and a bend. From there, your thigh can go on to the back of your arm, and you can just tip and use that little kickstand. This is a great way to gain confidence in getting your feet off the ground because the stability of the block is there for you. And then come back down. And these cork blocks are super nice, so if you are gonna invest in blocks, get a nice firm one because you need something that's stable enough, and sometimes the squishy foam ones, they just don't give you the kind of firmness you need for this type of work. All right, so what happens when we take the block away? So now I'm going to show you another variation without the block, and we're gonna start from prayer twist. This just gives you a little bit of height. So as you come into your prayer twist, bring your elbow as far down your thigh as you can get it, and allow your knees to stay bent. So a lot of times when we feel our knee pulling in front of the other, it's because we're not sitting back far enough. Bend your knees and sit your butt way back, and you're gonna feel a lot more stable across your pelvis. From there, same action, fingertips turn away, elbow goes under the butt, and it's a lot easier to get your elbow under your butt when you're coming in from this variation. Tip your weight forward, squeeze the inner thighs, maybe the toes come up, maybe they don't. Good. So this little back elbow gives you that stability you need to balance across both arms. If you're feeling really stable there, I want to show you the last variation, but on the other side, the rotation in the body is the same, but your hand placement is going to be different. So as you come into your revolved chair or your prayer twist, in this variation, you're going to have one elbow that's free. So essentially, the biggest change is that instead of your fingers pointing out on a 90 degree from your toes, they're in the same line. Bend your butt way back, so the knees have to bend. Butt goes way back, and then land your hands shoulder width distance apart. Bend your elbows back like you would in chaturanga, and then squeeze your heels together. Now your legs are only on one arm. Gaze forward, not down. Good. So if you want to see that again on this side, you're going to get deep into your chair so your butt goes way back. You gotta bend to get it there. Then you bring your hands outside the foot, shoulder width distance apart. Lift your butt up and bend your elbows straight back. Now squeeze your heels together and don't look down. Take one more breath. And then feet back to earth. So poses come and go. When I was younger, side crow was a breeze. Now that I'm a little bit older in my practice, I don't do it as often. And sometimes it's just harder. But then other things that were really hard for me when I was a younger yogi are a lot easier for me now. So poses come and go. But the mechanics of your body, learning how to twist, learning how to use your core, and your mindset, saying yes to trying something. That is the most important thing you can get out of this practice. So let's come back to down dog so we can stretch it out. With side crow, you get a lot of internal rotation of your inner thighs, a lot of that spinning your inner thighs back, and a ton of low belly support. So we're going to stretch out some of that, especially for our hips, in a half pigeon. Bring your right knee forward to the outside of your wrist and allow your left leg to go long behind you. So you're getting a really nice opening for your hip, and if you notice that you're rocking to one side, you can snuggle that block right under your bum. This is actually a posture that I've noticed so much change over the last 15 years of my practice. It used to be something that I would just kind of fall into, you know, when we're young and really limber, and I didn't really even know what it was good for. I was like, what am I supposed to be feeling here? And then I got older in my practice, and things tend to stiffen up for us, and that's why it's really, really good to continue to practice yoga as you age, because it does tremendous things for joint health. Now I'm feeling it a little bit more in my hip, but you shouldn't be feeling it in your knee. So if it's causing you knee pain, just flip on your back so you can take a figure 4. When we come into some of these deeper stretch poses, it's not about going as far as you can, it's about noticing where you're getting the sensation in your body, and that can be really helpful as we go through different seasons of life. Just that level of awareness of how does this posture affect me and where am I feeling it can be your meditative practice for the day. Take one more breath here. And as you exhale, take it back to downward facing dog. And let's do the other side. Bring your left leg forward, your knee goes outside of your wrist, and your right leg goes back. Another thing you might notice in something like Pigeon or side crow is that one side performs a little differently than the other side. I think we have this idea that someday when we meet like yoga nirvana, our body is just gonna magically fall into all of these shapes. And that's not really what yoga's about. Our shapes are there to help us sort of refine and take care of and nurture our body. But for our mindset, it's getting over the shapes, actually caring about them a little bit less. That gives us tons of liberation. They come and go. Some days, half pigeon feels like a literal pain in the butt, and other days it feels great. So wherever you're at today, you're doing just fine. Take another breath or two. Great. Find your hands and take yourself back to downward facing dog. Walk your legs out a little bit and come into stillness. And from here, we'll take it down to our mat into Shavasana. So come on down and recline. So come on down to the mat. And this is where we're just going to lay down and absorb the practice. Maybe you've heard yoga teachers talk about that a little bit. We really are thinking about just sort of absorbing the practice. Let the physical body go. You already did the mental work and the nervous system work. So when we practice these shapes over and over and over again, and even when we practice shapes that are similar, a twist is a twist is a twist, we're making pathways in our brain and we're reinforcing the fact that neurons that fire together wire together. So we're starting to just build this tolerance for different shapes in our body. We're building resilience, and we're also building muscle memory. You know, none of that is going to beat the fact that we all are changing and aging and life has its seasons. But the more that we can sort of approach our practice as this daily habit, this daily routine, we can continue to nurture and nourish our joints, take care of our body, and also check in with our mental and emotional health for just a few minutes every single day. And that can also be a pathway that you forge in your brain, starting to build some positive associations with self-care, acknowledging that when you move your body and do new things, it actually feels very good and is exciting. Your brain will reward you for that. Take a few more breaths, just lying on your back, feeling good about all that you've accomplished, and letting go of anything that you didn't. Your toes didn't come off the ground, or your shoulders felt a little shaky. It's fine, we're all human. We all have those feelings sometimes of, what if I didn't do enough? But you did enough. Great. If you have the time, stay in Shavasana as long as you can. Otherwise, bring yourself up to sit. Thank you so much for joining me today. Maybe this was your first time doing side crow, or maybe you've had it in your practice and you're just noticing how things are changing over time. Either way, you're doing an awesome job. If you liked this, then join me. I have an entire Power Yoga for Weight Loss series on our Yoga Plus app. And I also have a Power Yoga 10-day series coming out where you're going to mix and match different poses and just have a ton of great yoga workouts that you can access anytime. I can't wait to see you in the next video. And until then, namaste. Hey, it's Julia, and welcome to my 30-day Yoga for Weight Loss program. I've designed this program to help you live more optimally. In addition to 30 days of yoga, you will find bonus tips and homework assignments at the end of each video to help you stay on track.
You did it!
In fact, we've created a really balanced program. This means you are going to be addressing all aspects of your well-being, from your physicality all the way to how are you feeling mentally and emotionally throughout the entire 30 days. We're starting right here from the ground on up to build a practice that you can sustain day in, day out for your whole life. But let's just start with 30 days. I can't wait to get started with you, and I'll see you on your mat. Available now on Amazon and on wellnessplus.tv.